Hi everyone. When I originally filmed this video, it turned out to be so long that I decided to break it into two parts. So this is going to be part one, where I talk about my plastic surgery experience, and then in a couple of days I'll upload part two, where I talk about my experience with restylane. I will, once both are up, I will link them together so that if you find one, you can find the other. All right, here's the first one, my experience with plastic surgery. Hi everyone, welcome to the Free Range Diva. It's true confession time today. I wanted to talk to you about something that has been on my mind recently that I should share in the interest of full disclosure, and that is that when I was 40 years old, I had some plastic surgery done. So I want to talk to you about that experience, as well as my experience with fillers, because I've also had restylane done in my past as well. Although before I start, let me assure you that none of this has happened recently. And also let me say that I am not here to tell you, yes, you should or should not have plastic surgery if you're considering it. I'm only going to give you the information of my experience, because I think it's very important that you are allowed to make your own decisions, gather up the facts, and then decide what's best for you. So, I'm not sure how I'm just gonna start talking, and hopefully I will be able to make sense of the entire story. If not, I will then go back and cut things in, and so this video is going to be either very free-flowing or it's going to be choppy. So let's hope it's not too choppy. Okay, so yes, it was, I was coming up on my 40th birthday and living in New York at the time, the reason, I've got notes, let's just make sure that I stay on point on discussion here. So I was coming up on my 40th birthday, so I'm 61 now, so 21 years ago. I was living in New York at the time, and I had recently finished graduate school and was about to embark on a wonderful job that was going to give me a certain financial security. I had booked a contract that would keep me working and traveling for a full year. And so it was a few months before I was supposed to start rehearsing for that project. And I had always had I'd always been heavy-lidded my entire life. I never particularly liked it, but it wasn't that it ever, really bothered me either. However, at this point in my life, I had noticed that the lids, my lids were dropping further, to the point where it wasn't pushing my eyelashes into my eyes yet, but I could certainly feel the lids on my eyelashes in a very uncomfortable way, especially if I kind of opened my eyes wide. So I tended to kind of do this, just kind of keep my eyes sort of half open and half closed, so that I wouldn't feel that sort of weird sensation on the top of my eyelids. I also felt like my eyes, which are not particularly large, but I felt like they looked even smaller than they normally did. So, as I said, I was living in New York at the time. I had, enough cash on hand that I could afford to do it. So I went looking for a doctor, and I found one who, we had our consultation, and I told him what my issue was, and he made some suggestions. He actually said that, quote unquote, as long as I'm in there, why not place my cheek muscles back where they were? Apparently, and I hadn't noticed this, or even thought about doing something like this, but I guess I had just come out of graduate school and had been, part of my training, there was a lot of vocal training, a lot of really working your facial muscles on a daily basis. And so as a result, I guess my muscles had gotten bigger, I had bulked up my cheek muscles. So once, I had finished school, because I wasn't, training like that anymore, the muscles in my cheeks had sort of dropped. And so he felt that it would look better, my face would look more balanced, I guess, if he put those muscles back where they were supposed to be. So I said, okay. And on a word about doctors, obviously do your research as far as, picking out a surgeon. But from my own personal experience, I would say that if you walk into a doctor's office and say, I want this, 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 and this, and they say, oh, okay, fine, be wary. Recently, I went to I took a friend out for her birthday to a new Indian restaurant. Well, it was new to us, an Indian restaurant that we had not been to before. And the waiter came to take our order, and I decided I wanted a lamb dish. So I picked out a lamb tikka and told him that's what I wanted. And he looked at me and said, no. He goes, better to get the chicken. And I was like, really? And he said, yeah, because at this time of year, lamb is a little bit bitter and a little bit tough. And that's what you want in a doctor, okay? Someone that will give you their professional opinion and steer you in a way that will help you to look, get the results that you really want. Because sometimes we can't always communicate. We can say, heaven forbid, I want, X, Y, and Z's nose, or, you know what I mean? Or, my chin needs to go up here or whatever. And if you have a doctor who's like, oh, sure, I can make you look like Jacqueline Smith or Michael Jackson or Diana Ross, don't do that. Because the last thing you want is to end up looking like, a freak. And we've all seen bad plastic surgeries, so I don't have to go into what that can, what can go wrong. But, a lot can go wrong. So really try and have a really good relationship with your doctor, a give and take where you're relying on his expertise to kind of give you the result that you actually went in there to get, or the best result. Because the last thing that you also want is to come out of there and people, friends and relatives looking at you wondering, what did she do to her face or he do to his face? And you don't want that either. So let's see. So I made the appointment and we did it in his office. And, he had me, told me what to expect as far as how long the recovery would be and, what kind of pain level and pain management and things like that. And he described the surgery, and the surgery that he did with me was he put 2 incisions here and 2 incisions here in my, well back into my hairline. So there was not going to be a scar on my face. He literally went in with I think it's called an endoscope. It's that instrument that has a camera on the end. It's very, very, very tiny. And he filmed the whole thing and asked me if I wanted a copy of it, which I declined. I don't know, something really creepy about watching someone performing surgery on you. But anyway, so he made those incisions, and then he just lifted the muscles up here and here. I thought that he was going to actually cut, skin away and stitch it, but he was like, no, I didn't need that. This would give me a more natural look, and I would look more like myself. And so I was like, okay, and that's what he did. And like I said, we did it in his office. I was put to sleep, and then they have a recovery room there. The actual surgery, I don't think, took that very long. I believe I was probably at the office about 5 hours total. And then afterwards, I had planned to call a car service to take me home. And he and his nurse, I was the last patient there that day, and he was like, oh no, we'll take you home. So he and the nurse took me home. And then I thought there was very moderate swelling. Well, that first night I don't remember much. I just came home and went straight to bed. And I thought that I would be able to manage my pain, which at that point I wasn't having any pain at all, with aspirin. So I hadn't gotten my pain prescription filled, which was a big mistake. Because the next morning I woke up and realized that I was going to need some more serious pain medication, which I did. And I went, fortunately the pharmacy was only a block away, so I was able to walk to the pharmacy, get my pain medication, and then I was basically on the road to recovery. I wasn't able to shower or anything like that for the first few days. And then I can't remember how long I had the stitches in, but it wasn't very long. I think the most uncomfortable, well, there were two really uncomfortable and unexpected events. One was that I hated, because I had matted blood in my hair, I couldn't wait to get under, at least some warm water. So it was kind of uncomfortable the first few days until I could wash that out. And then a side effect of the pain medication was I got horrifically constipated. So it took several days to work through that issue. But otherwise, it was a very uneventful recovery. The stitches came out. There was some minor swelling here in this area of the face, which actually made me look 10 years younger. And so that swelling lasted maybe a week or maybe 2 weeks tops. And but otherwise that was it. I mean, I resumed after a couple of days I resumed my schedule. Like I said, I had a few weeks before I actually had to start rehearsals for my for the tour that I was going to be doing. And during that time I met with a few friends, and when the stitches came out, it was fine. He said that the results would last anywhere from 10 to 15 years. It's been 21, and at about the 10-year mark, my eyes they tightened up even more, and I'm sure that was because at that point I was loading up with peptides. And I noticed one morning that I had a new crease, and the whole area was much tighter than it had been before, and it's kind of stayed there. I have had no reason to even consider, doing something like that again. And so overall, it was a great experience. Now, when I was in the decision-making process, I literally sat down and I did what's called a cost-benefit analysis. I weighed the pros against the cons. And the pros were obviously, I would be happier with my appearance and much more comfortable opening and closing my eyes. But there were cons as far as cost, as far as, I've talked about some of them, the recovery time, whether or not I would, surgery can be a scary thing, and, what the results were going to be. So the one thing that I did not do when I was going through the decision process was I didn't tell anybody. I knew that this was something that I was going to have to live with, and I really didn't want anybody else's opinions or input. And let me explain, I know that sounds kind of harsh, but let me explain why. It's human nature that when we are asked for our opinions, we tend to give our opinions as if it were us doing it. So if I were to say to you, what do you think about me having plastic surgery? What you're hearing is, what do I think about myself, having plastic surgery? And let me give her my opinion of that. And we all do it. I mean, I do have, I think, one or two people that I really, really trust to be completely objective. But it's difficult. It's difficult for us to divorce our own emotions and our own thoughts about our personal, selves, and just offer up, guidance without any of that, personal history for somebody else. So I didn't tell anyone. The only people that knew after the surgery was done were two friends that were in New York with me, and mostly I told them just in case I ended up in some kind of trouble, and I might need assistance, because my family and friends and lifelong friends or whatever were did not live in New York City. And this was before I got married, so it was just basically me and the close friends that I had developed from grad school, because we all kind of, after we graduated, we all moved up there together. So there were two of my closest friends, and they knew. And, there was no, other than that, I didn't really feel the need to tell anybody else to this day. I think I've only told one other person. But no one in my family, not even my parents, none of my friends that I have known since high school, and none of my really close friends, no. And the reason why, I guess, is because I just don't think about it that much anymore. So, it never comes up in conversation. No one ever says, "What are your thoughts on plastic surgery, Cheryl?" In which case I would share my own experience, but that's never really happened. And so I've never, anyone who, and my friends who see this, you're going to be seeing this for the first time. You're going to be hearing this for the first time. Also, no one that's ever known me noticed anything different, other than I remember when I was on tour, we had a stop in Texas, and I saw my aunt and my cousin, and she said something, I can't remember what it was now, but it was something that made me think that my eyes, that she had noticed my eyes looked a little bit different. But otherwise, no one else has ever said anything or noticed anything. And I credit my surgeon with that, with the fact that I look like me. I look like I always did, but maybe my eyes are just a tiny bit bigger, a little more expressive maybe. And so, I guess that's the end of the story, except to say, would I do it again? And, I don't know. My first reaction is, there's nothing wrong with my face that I particularly would want to change. And I don't see that ever changing. I'm very happy with, the way that my face looks. Every so often I'll see a commercial for Lifestyle Lift, and I'll think, if I had money to throw away, just extra money lying around, maybe I would, maybe just a little, but I don't know. We'll just see. Like I said, right now, I couldn't afford to have something like that, so it's not even going to be discussed. I'll just continue using my peptides and my vitamin A rosehip seed oil, and anything else that'll guarantee to tighten up your neck a little bit, and just live with it, because ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, a few wrinkles around the neck are really not that big a deal. So let me see if there's anything else I can think of that I need to let you know about my experience.